wine is absolutely a lifestyle.
Alexander Rouget's wine story is almost a fairy tale.
About 6 generations, 7 generations where we can trace the family tree too.
Delivering Burgundy and beyond to Australia's top restaurants. History in Burgundy or Bourgogne is so long-lived. The people there, right? 5th, 6th generation, and you come over here, it's perfectly balanced as a 2022.
Bourgogne has never made as better wines than today.
People resonate with a story, and then what's in this glass, just becomes...
Burgundy is fantastic.
Produces exceptional wines from some of Burgundy's most celebrated appellations.
But let's go and see what Australia is about. And just before that...
Born in Meursault, Burgundy, into a 5th generation vigneron family who grew up surrounded by vineyards, cellars, and the thrill of harvest. He saw the craft, the patience, and of course the magic of turning grapes into wine. He fell in love with the final drop. His family estate, Domaine Rouget, led by his father Marc and brother Pierre-Henri, produces exceptional wines from some of Burgundy's most celebrated appellations. Meursault Charmes, Pommard, Volnay-Santenots, Saint-Romain. Whenever Alex is back in Burgundy, you'll find him there, sleeves rolled up, deepening his knowledge and connection to the land. But his path hasn't just been in the vineyard. Armed with a master's in wine marketing and management from Bordeaux, Alex has worked across the United States, China, and now, of course, Australia. In 2012, he moved to Melbourne, taking on the role of key account manager for Craigie Range Australia. That's where he built strong relationships with Australia's top venues and got to know the local trade inside and out. In 2004, he launched Clos Cachet, a platform to share his passion, his knowledge, and the very best French wines he grew up with. It's built on values of honest winemaking and close, trusted grower relationships, delivering Burgundy and beyond to Australia's top restaurants, independent retailers, and wine lovers. And of course, in 2020, he took it one step further with Le Club, an allocation-only Burgundy subscription for those who want the inside track. Welcome to another episode of the Wine Animals YouTube channel. I am beyond thrilled today to welcome what I believe is one of the leading forces in the wine scene, especially on the east coast of Australia. Even though he's from the other side of the world, he's still a leading force here in Australia. And it's with great pleasure and honour that I welcome Alex Rouget here from Clos Cachet to join me on the podcast. Alex, thank you so much for joining me.
Hey, Brendan. Very lovely. Very great to meet you today. To see you again, but to be here for your YouTube channel. Very excited about what's to come.
You can help me with my pronunciation when we're talking French as well, just to make sure that I'm not, boganizing it too much, maybe, and just to getting the pronunciation right. But I thought what we may do for everybody watching is just a little bit of a history on yourself, on your family's background, because obviously I know it, but it'd be nice for the viewers to know. So please take it away.
Of course, and please, if vice versa, if my Aussie accent is a bit shaky, please let me know. I've been working on that for some time now. Thank you very much to invite me today. I'm very happy about the conversation. So a little bit about the men, I guess, the Rouget family in Meursault. We've got about 6 generations, 7 generations where we can trace the family tree too. And at the time, they were mostly growers in Meursault and surroundings. So we see the family vineyards have been passed on for that long. However, really, in Burgundy, for quite a few generations, it was about growing, and then the grapes were usually sold to merchants, and merchants were in charge of selling the wines and making the wines. So the grower side of the family, undeniably, it's been there for a very, very long time. The first time we see bottles being produced, it's in a more bigger capacity, I guess. It's with my grandfather, Hubert, who really significantly developed the family domain. My grandfather was someone I look upon for a style of developing the family business for the future. And in his own time, after World War II, was not an easy France. It was a France that was devastated. Burgundy was under occupation. and certainly had suffered very greatly. So when he took over the vineyards, in fact, Burgundy was not in the shape we know it today. A lot of the growers were not necessarily sustaining the family life with the vineyards. It was not making money, basically, not like we know it today. So his contribution in his own generation was very massive. He clearly saw that there was opportunities to help neighbors to grow their vineyards. So he bought one of the first tractor in Meursault when he was very young. And he grew up just opposite the Chateau of Meursault in a humble family home. At the time, his family was polyfarming. Vineyards was one thing, but they were also cultivating other things. And he looked up to I guess, as a young kid, the chateau, and he thought, well, perhaps I could farm their vineyards. They seem to be well established. So he went with his little bagou and appetite and managed to actually take over the farming of the Chateau de Meursault. At the time, it was a big thing. There was nearly 15 hectares of vineyard. And that helped really him financially to acquire a few other vineyards in his own ways. When you look at Burgundy back then, it was the introduction of the chemicals. It was definitely higher yields and bigger production because the necessity was to make a bit of money to sustain the life they had, and that was very humble. He had a family of 6 and working day and night, basically. So when he started with the tractor, he also saw that the village was in full reconstruction and there was a need to expand, build new roads and things like that. So I'm happy to share about that story because it's also drawing a lot about what is happening in my life. So when he started to help also the village with the building roads, he bought another tractor to do with that, and then started to hire people and extend his company that basically took him to his 94th birthday, when the year he passed a few years back. And 3 weeks before, he was still doing the payroll for about 250 employees. So he built a huge company with his own hands, helped many neighbors in the neighborhood to develop their vineyards with his own tractor. And not finishing here, he was also the mayor of Meursault for 35 years. Wow. So he was also impulsing a huge energy into the village. I think one of his brilliant heritage that we still see today, and it's a nice little anecdote, I guess, and it's the only village in Burgundy to do that. When he was the mayor of Meursault, he saw a patch of land on the hill of Meursault that was not planted, and he thought to himself, well, it would be a great thing if we helped the youth of that village, the same way perhaps I would have loved to be helped when I was young. And he planted the vineyards with the money of the village, and decided to split all those vineyards among only the youth of the village to give them an opportunity to grow more grapes, or perhaps found their first domain winery at the time. So at the time, who was it? It was the young Dominique Lafont, it was the young Mestre family, and who became really great growers. And he helped with that the village to secure some funds for the future and to reinvest in the youth, even further than just vineyards. He built a state-of-the-art sport complex in Meursault. Again, it was never seen in the area. He always was looking at the youth as something that will be thriving tomorrow. So I guess this is where the Rouget family took a lot upon itself to realize, okay, we have the vineyards. Now we need to bottle and we need to make something out of it. So when my father took over in 1975, he was at the time only young, in his 20s. My grandfather gave him the keys and said, look, you're ready. It's time. I'll help you, but let's go. There was quickly a bit of a clash of generation, as it happens. But that style was very much one of open arm, welcoming, something I've really still today admire from him is that while he was growing grapes in Burgundy, he moved the vineyards to be chemical free. It was difficult because my grandfather didn't really understand those decisions at the time, and it was very gradual. And he was always very inclusive, and that's something that has definitely shaped me a lot. And when I continued on growing up at the family domain and realizing that, okay, that's what my grandfather did with the help of my grandmother, now my father with the help of mum, let's take hopefully the best of those generations. And at the time when Dad, still very young, about 15 years ago, told me, look, you go see the world. I think you'll see that there's so much to learn. And I was already a bit like that, very adventurous. I went to America. I was barely 18 to work in hospitality, and then went back to California to work at Paulee Winery, and then quickly moved out of Burgundy to study at the Bordeaux Wine University. I always wanted to explore other wine regions, fascinating wine regions, and to learn what they had to offer, all on their own, in their own style, basically. So I'm probably a product of all of that together, if I put it and try to summarize. So when I finished my studies, and this is the reason I'm in Australia today, I met my wife Jessica, and she happens to be Australian. She grew up in Melbourne. She's a French teacher here, so she speaks fluently French. And at the time, there was always one thing, however, that led me more than anything, because commerce is one thing, but sometimes could be tasteless. There's one thing that every decision I make, I try to consider very highly, and it's my heart. Because if you can put your heart towards something, hopefully that will make a difference somehow.
Definitely.
So I thought, well, yeah, Burgundy is fantastic, and ultimately I am a full product of Burgundy. But let's go and see what Australia is about. And just before that, I got a great opportunity I couldn't refuse, is to move to China. At the time, a very highly regarded person was launching import and distribution business in wine. And he decided to build his first team. And I was very lucky to be part of it in Shanghai for 2 years, nearly 2 years. And he became my mentor and taught me a lot about import and distribution. At the time, probably what I was missing is, how do you articulate all those emotions, passion, and put it into something that is relevant in the very long term? And I learned all that. So at the time, David Chow was, I think he's still at the head of the company, Altavis Fine Wines. He had a brilliant career, trained at Sciences Politiques in Paris, and then the HEC Business School, which is one of the top 10 in the world. Sino-French, established in China, worked for LVMH, Pernod Ricard at very high level. And then decided to do his own thing. And he recruited mostly young people with little experience and taught us. He was our teacher. Every morning we would come to work, an hour looking at the blackboard and say, guys, this is what it means to sell wine. And that was fantastic. In a market in China that was absolutely booming at the time. It was in 2008, 2009. Bordeaux was absolutely thriving in the area in China. So it was fantastic to witness that, see the emergence of also wine drinkers in a population that is quite resourceful. And what I appreciated the most in that experience is that he was importing French wines, Australian wines, New Zealand. But we were mostly talking to a demographic that didn't know about wine. So the idea was really to be educative, to be approachable, to play a lot on bringing people together in experiences and try to pass on something that is quite daunting wine. If you lay it down as a product, even though I don't like the term for wine, it's incredibly complex. But it doesn't have to, as we know. And that's probably the simplification that is important, at least to start the conversation. So
Got to start somewhere, right?
absolutely.
But what I get from that is that you get the hard work, drive, dedication from your grandfather, and then you get the open arms, the hospitable, the kindness, the generosity from your father. And obviously both of them had very strong women in their lives.
Yes.
And you obviously have a very strong woman in your life as well. Because I don't think, and I mean, people say to me all the time, oh, you must have the best wife. You know, like she lets you do all of this stuff. And
Yes,
I'm like,
correct.
well, best wife, you know, that's debatable between, you know, individually, right? But what I think every person who has such passion and energy for any industry has is a person, if it's a wife, a husband, a partner, whatever it is, that understands your passion and desire and supports it, right? Whether they agree with it or they, like my wife doesn't follow me on social media.
Yes.
I think she does now on YouTube, thankfully, because you know every subscriber counts.
At least she can see you a bit more.
Yeah, well, I mean, she sees. I think I talk enough about wine at home for her, but I think that you need a really close support system, like on a personal level, because we give. Like, I mean, I'm speaking for myself, but I'm really assuming here. But we give so much to what we do because we really truly believe in it beyond words can express.
Absolutely.
You need somebody there to sort of like help, like, you know, like push you back up when you're feeling down, and you know, like
it's absolutely right, and that's something I think if you're not ready to do it, probably better to find another kind of industry than wine, because wine is absolutely a lifestyle.
It's all consuming.
It's
like
all consuming.
It is all consuming. I mean, I have a family of 6. Right? Like I have a family of 6.
Yes,
so I understand your grandfather having a family of 6. Maybe that's why we work so much.
That's
right. We have that many people
to feed.
To feed. Yeah, oh my God, they can eat. But you know, the history in Burgundy or Bourgogne, as I've been told to pronounce it from now on,
yes,
is, you know, it's so long lived, and there's such a rich tapestry and history woven into, you know, the villages and the people there, right? Yeah. 5th, 6th generation. And you come over here to Victoria, to Melbourne.
Yes.
You know, where we're lucky to have vines that are 50 years old, right? You guys have got, if you say 50-year-old vine, everyone's like, oh, you planted that yesterday? Like, that's really how it comes across in France, right? Like the history is just not yet.
I tend to always come anywhere or in any kind of relationship and start from the ground up. And what I loved in Melbourne, in Australia in general, is the incredibly dynamic demography, the multiculturalism, connecting towards similar goals, not always, but and I found that while being a young country, it has all the attributes of a very successful civilization, if you would like.
Yep.
And that really took me. I thought to myself, I could see myself live here. And it became home, basically. When I first arrived in 2011, as you resumed well at the beginning, I quickly witnessed that there's a pent-up energy on the market that is yet to be fully, I guess, used and teased to the maximum. And for me, it was fantastic because Burgundy is, as you say, is very established, but something that I admire for Bourgogne is that it's never a dormant region as well. Mm-hmm. So it's in a consistent innovation, whether it is understanding its consumers, new techniques. There's that perhaps weight on the shoulder of producers in Bourgogne to say, we know we have a gift here. It's, of course, the location, the quality of the vines, the knowledge that has been passed on. And we really need to look after it and go beyond. Mm-hmm. And it's been really something we've seen most of the time throughout the last 2,000 years in Burgundy. It's a long time, but it's always been progressing. And that's perhaps what's something else I take out of that. And Clos Caché is born on those foundations for me, and it's really important, is to any other decision that I make, first following my heart, but also knowing that it will have an impact in 50, 100 years. It's not, it means I look in the very long term. but very similarly to what a producer and what my father has been doing in his time. He tells us often that whenever he planted a new vineyard or made the decision to move to biodynamy, that was something that would mostly benefit us, not him, because it will take 10, 15, 20 years
to see the benefit
to see the benefit from that. So I think it's something in today's world where everything tends to really go fast, and of course because of information and the way we can connect with each other, which is absolutely fantastic. There's certain things that can't go too fast, and one is to be very much looking at the long term when it comes to business decisions. So when I launched Cloquet, I thought Burgundy is quite already known and well imported in Australia. There's other wine regions that don't have that luxury and where I could probably have an impact. At the time, in all humility, I couldn't. I knew about Australian wines. I was distributing some in China, so I was already a bit versed, but not enough to think to have the pretension to think I could make a difference. So I thought to myself, let's work on my strength, really. Of course, Burgundy. At the time, I saw the appetite and the wish to perhaps have more information and an easy way to connect with the region. I feel like consumers of Burgundies, more than perhaps most regions, or for Australians talking about local Victorian wineries, it's deeply emotional. Mm-hmm. It's part of our life. We take the time to sometimes cellar them, to open the great bottles with good friends. There's a lot of meaning to that. And I thought, well, we need to open the doors. It's a little bit closed down at the moment. That was 12 years ago. And I thought, let's really open the doors to Burgundy. That's what Bourgogne is about. If you go to Bourgogne, I'm sure you'll have the chance to go at some stage. We'll organize it.
Hopefully soon. Yeah. Get that past the wife.
And you'll realize as soon as you get there, it's while it might be difficult to get to certain producers because they are the ones hosting you, and their time is limited, like all of us. They don't have a cellar door or someone looking after the tasting. Most of the time, they want to do it themselves because it's their production. They're in the vineyard. They're farmers, and therefore. It's becoming harder to sometimes get to those producers, but when they do, and they do a lot, it's an incredible experience.
Well, at the end of the day, yes, we're drinking grape juice. Yes, in essence.
Yes.
But we are there is so much that pours into one bottle.
Absolutely.
From the season, to weather, to the soil, to the vines, to the person tending the vines, to the rules and regulations, especially in France.
Absolutely.
There's a reason why everybody that enjoys a great bottle of wine seems to have enjoyed it more when they're with other people,
yes.
right? In an environment, at a dinner, at a restaurant, at a lunch, at a family gathing, opening it with a friend. Yes, it's nice to drink a nice bottle of wine on your own sometimes. Don't get me wrong. It's fantastic, right? We've all done it, right? Some maybe more than one bottle on our own. But sharing them with other people, and that's my philosophy, which is opening the bottles to let people taste them.
100%.
And I think that's been a little bit of a shift. I mean, definitely. I mean, I've only been, in wine terms, maybe, almost 6 years now in doing something in the industry. 1 year now, full time. But the shift has changed a bit from that buying and cellaring forever to enjoy them in 20 years to popping and pouring them right now with friends.
Absolutely. And I think there should be no limit to that.
Yeah.
When I see, and we still, if you go to Bourgogne, they will be the first prescriptors of that is the generosity. Yes, Burgundy, some will say sadly, has been spiraling into more expensive pricing because of the first, and we'll talk about that later. I think Bourgogne has never made as better wines than today, and that has to be rewarded somehow. Mm-hmm. But also obviously the global demands and the price of the vineyard that it keeps rising. So if you go to Burgundy, you'll see that there's nearly no limit to the generosity of producers, what they offer you. Every tasting is free. You'll taste. If they produce Premier Cru, Grand Cru, you'll taste them. They'll open all the vintages. They'll spend an hour and a half with you, and they'll show you that for them, it's the most important. It's right here, right now. Mm-hmm. And I think being such a beautiful gift, Burgundy, some merchants perhaps were taken in the idea that it's too good. It needs to remain theirs, and therefore it was always in the back of the rooms. The dealings. Mm-hmm. You don't see them. They're not opened. I can't access that because it's too rare. But at Clos Caché, we really want to break that spiral and try to open doors. Of course, we are limited to what we can get, but we do open a lot of bottles. A lot of it.
And good. I've been sipping and drinking this now since we opened it 20-something minutes ago, because this to me epitomizes your generosity just as a person. But we're drinking Rouget.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. Which is, just saying it, right? Meursault.
Vireuil.
I would have said Vireuils.
That's a very tough one.
That's a tough word. Yeah. Even, I feel like that's a tough French word to say.
Very much.
2022. So we're obviously like Meursault controllers. So we're from the village of Meursault.
Yeah.
Right. This is obviously one of your bottles that you bring in. But this is I would refer to this as a unicorn bottle. This is what this is what, as wine lovers, this is what we want to drink all the time.
For me, it's always an inspiration. The man Rouleau, today Jean-Marc Rouleau is making the wines with grace. He's been joined by his son Félicien recently. Now, Félicien will go through a 10-year training process before he takes the keys of the domain. I love that. I think Burgundy has always been based on intergenerational stories. It's how it thrives, and that's how the stories continue to happen. And this is the absolute, for me, reference point in a certain style in Meursault. I always, when in doubt, I open a bottle of Jean-Marc's wines. It also goes to show that while Jean-Marc has such an established reputation and is so demanded around the world, he's also very, very much connected to his clientele. When he picked us to distribute his wines, it was not an easy decision for him because we was taking a risk. We were a young company, but he saw that there was an opportunity to not forget what's next in the distribution of his wines. We are at the spear. We are the one communicating with consumers, and whether they're professionals or consumers. And if we don't stay in touch with what's happening, the new way of consumption, being approachable, we really can miss one generation, 1.5, and then possibly the domain can stop and seize. We've seen that in Burgundy already. So it's very, very important, and I think you're a strong representative of that, Brendan, is that, yes, we're drinking Domaine Rouleau, it's fantastic, but it's meant to be drunk, enjoyed with friends.
Catch cry.
And we need to absolutely make it available somehow. So not necessarily being a beautiful bottle in a wine cellar.
We really pay enough over here in Australia for these kind of bottles, and I get photos sent to me from friends when they're in Bourgogne and they're like, "Oh, we're at lunch and have a look at this bottle of Rouleau, at €100," and you're like,
absolutely.
"Oh," like you just instantly like, "Oh, I wish I was there," and hopefully, not hopefully, I will get there next year.
Yes.
That's on the cards already. But this is, to me, you cannot mistake this for anything but French Chardonnay. I don't think you can go anywhere else in the world. You can't get that depth of like concentration, flavor, yet purity of fruit.
Yes.
And it's perfectly balanced as a 2022, which is a great vintage in Burgundy, correct?
Vintage. Absolutely. I think one of the top vintages in Burgundy with balance and concentration, which they don't come across often.
It's a tough part of the world to grow grapes in, right?
Yeah. I mean, nature is very generous in Burgundy. to be honest, it's a region that is very blessed. And however, to be able to express it this way in what was quite a hot season, Jean-Marc has its hallmark of freshness retention. It's nearly crystalline, crushed rocks,
very
water,
saline.
and saline like that,
Yeah.
and saline. And this is very difficult to reach that level of balance in a Meursault when you don't want to be too lean. It's still it's there, it's still beautifully concentrated, but it has that amazing, what we call minerality. And
Well, it's like if I was going to describe it on a video, I would say that it has a Chablis-esque freshness. It
Yes.
has that like briny oyster shell. You know, we walk along a beach and you get hit in the face by sand and sea
Yes,
spray like
very
that.
much.
That's what when I think of minerality, that's what I think of. Getting smacked in the face by sand, getting it out of your eyes, but you taste it. You can actually taste that.
Absolutely.
And you're tasting the soil, right? You're tasting the history of the soil. Because Meursault can generally be a little bit fuller,
Yeah,
richer,
generous.
generous,
Absolutely.
floral. This is just, I mean, I would literally happily take that bottle. I didn't even need a glass, and I would just, I could drink that.
and that's so for me. It's also the way we want to promote wines, I guess. And Domaine Rouleau was one very, very difficult to access when we first started in Australia. It was hardly possible. But what I noticed is, and that's why we launched also La Paulee of Melbourne, and we do so many events every month in Melbourne, Sydney, now Brisbane, to open those bottles and talk about it in an easy way. You do a lot of that too, and that's fantastic.
We should touch on La Paulee for a minute, because
yeah.
I think if you know French wine and you know Bourgogne, you will know the Festival of La Paulee, which is the celebration at the end of vintage.
That's right.
Everybody gets together on a long table in Meursault, right?
Yes, correct.
Long table down the street. You got to correct me here if I'm wrong. And they bring bottles from their domain and from their cellar
Yes.
to share with everybody.
With the harvesting team, family.
Everybody involved. The whole village.
The whole village is involved. It's a huge celebration, even though things are evolving, and there's that huge energy where you've worked all year long, and you've got that pent-up excitement to think, okay, my vintage is now in the winery, it's safe. And for once, this is probably the only time in the year, in the calendar year, where producers, you see them, you're like, okay,
They can drop their shoulders and have a relax.
they can relax, because Mother Nature doesn't have an impact anymore. And God, sometimes it's brutal.
Yeah.
It's very brutal. And you can wake up and think, okay, everything is downstairs in the cellar. It's safe. It's here. Now we can do that part of the job. So they really go out and celebrate.
And that's a massive festival over there. Then you decided, you must have been sitting there one night with a bottle and gone, why don't we do this in Melbourne?
Yeah, absolutely. So I saw that in Melbourne there's a huge potential for that, and especially Melbourne. I think it's the city that has such a huge appetite for sharing based upon that celebration aspect, and I thought it's time to really bring people together and make a day out of it, promote Victorian wines, because they're the ones soldiering around us here in Melbourne to make the best wines they can, and bring them in the room and celebrate with restaurateurs, consumers, all together to have an incredible time of generosity, because the idea is that everyone brings a bottle, and a bottle that is, every time guests ask me, Alex, what should I bring? And I never really get in the details, because I say, you should bring a bottle that you're emotionally attached to, because what's going to happen on the day is that you'll be talking with your heart to your friends, and they say, guys, I always wanted to open this one, and finally I can.
So that's like that question, isn't it? What are you bringing?
That's
what
right.
should I bring? Are you bringing 2 bottles or 3 bottles? Or it's bring what you want to share.
Absolutely.
The whole idea, and I think that people get trapped and suffocated even when they go to dinners. It's to go and buy something to bring and share, right? Because they feel like there's this incessant need to do it. It's like, well, hang on a minute. You can buy something to bring, yes, but there needs to be a reason why you're bringing that. Like people are walking around sharing 750 mils between 300 and something people, right? Doesn't go far.
No.
Especially when someone gives you a really nice pour of,
Yeah.
or you say, give me a little bit more of that. It has to be about sharing. And I think that, while it's a chaotic event for somebody like me, like it's very chaotic.
There's so much
and
happening.
And I'm a very, out there person anyway.
Yes.
But I could see it for a lot of people, it would be daunting to be in a room of 360 people drinking some of the greatest wines in the world.
That's right.
But it's a great celebration, and it's something that I think if you are a true wine lover, you must experience. Well, I mean, I have to experience it in Mercer, of course, but I would, experience it in Melbourne is just sensational.
It's and see, that's something. It's an answer we didn't have when we launched the event because there was so much unknown. We could only bring up the concept, make sure that everything is there for it to be successful. But truth is, I had a good idea, and that's why we did it. But we didn't know if people would play the game and think, well,
it's hard. You got to pay, and then you got to bring something it's the economy's not fantastic at the moment.
Yeah, that's right. So, and the day we did it 3 years ago, it was instantly there. The dynamic, the energy, that generosity really came up, and everyone just stood up and started to share their wines, and I was like, oh my God.
Well, I'll be honest.
I'm relieved.
I'll be honest that when I got wind of it, I was skeptical.
Yeah.
I was like, it's a lot of money to spend, plus needing to bring your best bottle, right? And for a lot of people, it's out of their price range, which is perfectly understandable. And I didn't go to the first one, and a couple of us didn't go. And I remember getting messages from some of my friends who were there and instantly being like, oh, I'm never missing that again. Like, there's no way. And I think I had, 20 seats last, I took 20 seats last time to bring people from all over the country. That's my thing, bring them from Brisbane, from Perth,
incredible.
from Sydney, bring them all down. But there's one question I've been dying to ask you.
Yes.
And it's now that we're drinking one of your family's
That's right.
wines here. Hopefully you can see that really well, hopefully.
Pomard.
We'll get some photos of it, the Pomard. So the conversation with your father, your brother's obviously the winemaker.
Yes.
And the conversation with your father, hey, I want to go over and I'm going to live in Australia and I'm going to start a distribution, well, what was technically a distribution, which is way more than that now, obviously. But was that a conversation that was like, shake hands, off you go, son, live your life? Or was that are you sure you don't want to stay here and stay in the family domain and help us here?
At the time, it was very, very clear that I was free to do what I wanted to do, and that's probably helped me to consider every options. I always love to push myself to challenges. There was that idea I had when I was younger, working in Burgundy. I worked for a year with Dad at the domain, and it was fantastic. I can see us working together really well. But there was no room just yet, and my grandfather was still there and involved. My dad was there, and my brother was starting. 3 generations is quite something, and I thought to myself, fantastic. It's the opportunity I always wanted, is to therefore do something with my own ideas. When I first arrived in Australia, I had Jess, my wife, always reminds me, no money at all. I was spending everything. The little salary I had in Shanghai. Jess had a little bit of saving, but I launched Cloquet out of her parents' garage with a few pallets I brought in, took a huge risk, and the rest is history. But I could only see satisfaction for me to at least try. So when we had that conversation, and Dad and Mum were always like that, they always say, look, that the domain is here. It's not going to move. Do your own thing. Fulfill yourself. Go travel. Go perhaps launch your company. Work for someone you love. But I think it will be more fulfilling, and you always can come back.
Do you think that your brother was more suited then to the winemaking and to that, rather than what? Like, could the roles switch? Could your brother do what you do, and could you do what he does? Or do you think that you're just so different? And this is intriguing, right? Because you grew up in the same house. You were brought up the same way by the same parents with the same values and morals and people.
That's right.
Yet you've taken completely different career paths. But do you think you could switch? Do you think it could happen?
It could. But at the time, Pierre was definitely more ready. He didn't like to travel.
Okay.
He's traveling much more now. But he was ready. He worked at Domaine de Monty. He traveled France for selling oak barrels. He worked for Cooper. Met incredible people. So he was really much more ready in a way in his mind to think, I can now do it, and I'll bring something to the table. For me, I have so much high expectations of myself that I thought I'm too young. I'm not ready. I could be and learn with Dad and my brother, no doubt. I would have poured so much energy into it, but I thought, no, let's give it time. And if we're ready at some stage, and it will eventually happen in perhaps 15, 20 years time. I believe
when you've had enough selling, when you can go back and just be a farmer again, right?
In a different way. Yeah, absolutely. I've got 2 young daughters. They come with me every year, every 2 years to visit producers. They've traveled France with me inside out.
They try better Burgundy than what
8
I've
and
tried,
10.
probably.
Yes, they sniff it and taste a little. Hopefully,
it's all about the next generation,
absolutely.
Right? Like it's what we're, and that you touched on that earlier, and I really, really love that, because for me, it's about trying to help the next generation understand and be comfortable with wine, and making it less like wanky, maybe, or less like control, like less, in such a box. Like it needs to be accessible, and I think this is where I like our conversation, because if I don't know where I put them, they're over here.
Yes, correct.
Behind you've now. So Clos Cachet, obviously, Burgundy Brawn, but you've now, we'll get these 2 out here. I mean, everyone knows this brand. This is one of my, like, neighbours of mine.
Absolutely, yes.
So we've now gone into Victorian wineries.
Yes, correct.
Just 2.
Yep.
Just 2, though, which is I admire the fact of you starting, not going, just trying to get everybody on board, really focusing on who you represent, and obviously Mount Mary from the mighty Yarra Valley.
Correct.
And by far from Geelong. Just briefly tell me about the decision to then move to representing Victorian wineries.
Yes, so for me, it was very, very important that if ever the moves to distribute Australian wines happen, I would need to be ready, have the knowledge, as well as the team to make a difference. Again, I don't believe in getting into something if it's just to be there, and that was important that we could really bring something to the industry. And I think the first step was, of course, travel extensively in each region, meeting the producers and learning about the intricacy of the viticulture here in Australia, and understanding very quickly that just around us here, around Melbourne, Victoria is blessed with so many microclimates, which is not the case in necessarily in every state to that kind of a very good climate for different varietals. So I thought that first we were quite blessed to be here in Melbourne for that. Then the second is that if something happens, sadly, I nearly won't be able to provoke it, because most great wineries are already distributed, and I could go and pitch and try my best. But I thought, well, let's take the time anyway. I have the time. I'm not pressed. So I thought the La Paulee and making an impact on promoting Victorian wines would be interesting to see first who is coming out, who is getting out there, trying to make a difference. And I quickly encountered a bunch of incredible winemakers. The first edition of La Paulee was that. You always see the pioneers in everything they do. They might be already established, but they're pushing the boundaries. And when I saw, 10 minutes by tractor, Bannockburn, Mount Mary being involved, I thought, well, similarly, they don't necessarily have to trust me. They probably don't need La Paulee to advertise their wines or anything like that, but they believe in the common sense that we all need to contribute a little to make it even greater. How beautiful. We call it industry, but that's what it is, So I thought, okay, let's check it out. And La Paulee was a revelation. I met really fantastic people, but again, at this stage, I had no intention whatsoever necessarily to distribute their wines. And one of the great meetings was with Sam at Mount Mary and Nick Farr, and understanding where they're coming from, their objectives on the market. At the time, they were probably fishing a lot of information about me, which is normal, and try to get to know each other. And I thought that they, similarly to a Jean-Marc Rouleau, they didn't have to. because they sell out their wines, but they're looking at next generation and next. And they thought to themselves, the market, as you know, Brandon, is ever changing, especially in the last COVID has really created a magnitude of change in the wine industry. We need to, as actors in the industry, to interpret, to understand what it is, perhaps pivot, but definitely pour some energy into understanding firsthand what the consumer wants, because we might miss the boat. And missing the boat for multi-generational wineries is a disaster. Mm-hmm. It means one generation hasn't done the job. Yeah. So I think they probably saw, I hope, they saw in Clos Caché the ability to keep that strong connection and not also sell out their image or brand. Not that it was done before, but to continue on to give confidence to the market. Because today it's also that we could always cut short anything in life. But our role is to make sure we can describe the tremendous amount of work that is done in those vineyards. And when I look at Sam Middleton and Nick Farr, I see growers that are pioneering at so many levels. They are laying down the path for so many producers to come that will be saying, hey, I'm in the Yarra Valley. Oh, it's so famous. Yes, because some people did the job. They're taking huge risk. They're failing. They're succeeding. They're understanding and try to understand what could work best. Sometimes it takes 5 years to fail, 10 years to fail with vineyards. Huh?
You have to fail. We have the same conversation with my son.
Yeah.
You can make mistakes.
Absolutely.
You can fail.
And you have to.
And you must,
right.
But it's how you recover and how you respond from that. And I think
Correct.
that, you probably see a lot of Bourgogne history in these producers in particular, in the way that it's, like from Sam's grandfather, I'm obviously friends with Sam as well. And we talk a lot about our children play basketball against each other.
Yeah.
And we talk a lot about creating that future. And it may sound cliche, a legacy for our children. But, I mean, I'm not in this long-term for myself, because one day I'm going to get old and I'm going to not be here anymore drinking beautiful wine. But I hope that what I've done is create something for my tribe of children to be able to either continue on with or benefit from. They don't have to be wine lovers or drinkers, or my 2-year-old loves smelling my glass. Everything's...
There's always one.
Smells good, Dad. Smells good. If he smells a coffee, yuck. If he smells wine, it smells good. But I think it's like the ability for them to have something. Your father, your grandfather, the same thing. Like your grandfather looked generations ahead, not just the next gen, but your generation and your children's generation.
Absolutely.
And I'm thinking the same thing needs to happen on such a broader scale for the industry to improve.
I was resuming briefly at La Paulee for the opening speech that I think for me, the success of wine in tomorrow's world will be more than ever to make sure we can connect it to its strong provenance and people. I don't believe that you can be somehow disconnected from everything. No family, no mentors, no. I'm from a farming family. For me, it's the land.
Yep.
If I don't have that sense of interpreting nature and understanding it, I'm very touched by nature.
There's so many platforms for us to get out the story, and people,
very much.
It doesn't matter how much technology and how disconnected from each other we are. Everybody has an emotive connection. You have an emotive side and a chance to bond with a story.
Yes.
People resonate with a story. And then what's in this glass just becomes something to bond over and to share and to have the joy. And for me, this has been an absolute joy. I wish we could continue talking for hours, and we probably can. We can probably just do this again.
Very much.
But
so.
I mean, I am extremely grateful and thankful that you've taken the time to talk to me, let alone opening some of the greatest wines in the world. But this Pommard too, I'll tell you what, the depth on that, the concentration on that is very...
It's a Pommard that is quite atypical because it's grown on a vein of alluvial at the bottom of the valley in Pommard. So very opposite to what usually Pommard means from the hills, where it's very heavy on limestone and there's a big air draft, a combe that is in Pommard. So generally they come across rather structured and with a lot of character. But the Clos des Roses is a little monopoly of the family. It's enclosed by walls, and it's on a very tender soil. And you see that straight away, I think. It's got that beautiful, very attractive nose. It's a bit floral. The tannins are softer, and it's
got
very
really
attractive.
great structure. It really does. But,
And,
but again, please like, comment, subscribe. I'm going to give away a bottle of By Far for this episode to somebody who comments. Right? I'm a generous person.
Fantastic.
Alex is a generous person. We're going to give something away. Please head over and follow Clos Cachet as well. Okay, you can support them directly. He's doing wonderful things for the world of wine here on the East Coast, and hopefully we'll get him across west.
Yes.
Get something happening over
At
there
some
with
stage.
my man JJ. A massive cheers to you, Alex. Thank you.
Cheers.
And
Thank
you
you
for
so much,
watching,
Brendan.
and tune in for next episode.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.